Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Souza. Thanks for joining me today as we look at the recent action in the NBA. We'll talk a little bit about the games that have happened over the course of the last 24 hours. We'll talk about, later on in the show, we'll talk about the power rankings, my personal top 5 and bottom 5 teams in the NBA after week 1, incredibly early. Don't judge me. It's just an opinion. And of course, it's informed, but it's early. Small sample sizes. So, again, nothing to freak out about. Obviously, there's some big teams that haven't had the best starts. They may not make the top 5. That doesn't mean they won't be there at the end of the year. But we'll see which teams are playing well right now, which teams have started off hot and have a good outlook moving forward. And, of course, the opposite is true as well. We'll look at teams that are struggling right now. Teams that are very concerning if they'll have good seasons or not. Regardless, let's move on to Steph Curry. 51 points last night for the Golden State Warriors. Incredible shooting performance for Steph Curry as the Warriors down the Wizards 144-122. The story of the night, though, again, 51 points by Curry, 11 threes. He hit 11 threes last night. Not just a big game for him in terms of points, but he had 24 attempts, 24 field goals. He hit 15. He was 11 for 16 from 3. He did not even play the fourth quarter, so we may have been robbed of seeing a 65, 70-point type of night from Curry, the way he was shooting it, the way that he was hitting those threes. You could definitely argue that he could have scored 15 to 20 more points had he played that fourth quarter. But, of course, we know the Warriors, they have bigger things in mind, like NBA championships. They don't really care about, the fifth game of their NBA season. And even though Curry had an amazing game, he didn't need to play the fourth quarter as they cruised to an easy home victory. Kevin Durant in this game, 30 points in 32 minutes, 18 field goals. So an efficient night all around for the Warriors as we see them shoot 57.6% from the field, 46% from 3. We already know that this team is special. We already know that this is the team to beat in the NBA. But when they play like this, no one's beating them. I don't care what team it is. If you shoot that well and you're the Golden State Warriors, if you have guys like Curry, Durant, Clay, and you shoot 57% and 46% from 3, good night. The show's over. We might as well give them the championship now. So we'll see if they can continue that. The Warriors improved to 4-1. The Washington Wizards, they fall to 1-3 as they have a tough start to their season. Bradley Beal had a decent game for Washington at 23 points on 10 of 15 shooting. John Wall, not a great game by any stretch, as he scores 13 points in 27 minutes, and he sees his counterpart, his point guard counterpart, go off for 51. So with that being said, it's still early in the year for Washington. They get to see the Sacramento Kings tomorrow night in Sacramento. So it's a good change from playing the Warriors. You go from Golden State to Sacramento, so maybe they'll bounce back and get in the win column for their second win. But again, the story of the night is Golden State just dominating behind Steph Curry. I did want to mention that Kevin Durant said that he took himself out of the game because the Wizards weren't very good, basically, is what he said. Kind of disrespectful, but kind of funny at the same time. So take that for what it is. Moving on. A big game that happened last night that a lot of people are talking about today is the Los Angeles Lakers. They get their first win in the LeBron James era. They beat the Phoenix Suns. I think we can all agree that that's a game that they should win most of the time. Phoenix, not a good team. The Lakers, they've had some struggles to start the year, but they've had a tough schedule, so they get to play a team that's a lot more beatable than the teams that they've seen so far. They do win 131-113. LeBron James, 19, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, 7 of 16 from the field. But the man who had the biggest game for the Lakers, and it's a little bit interesting, is Lance Stevenson. You wouldn't expect him to score 23 points, especially on 14 attempts, but he did. 8 rebounds, 8 assists, so he actually performed, in my opinion, the best for the Lakers last night. And, of course, the Lakers were playing this game, and they're playing a couple more games here without the likes of Brandon Ingram and Rajon Rondo, who are suspended by the NBA for their actions against the Rockets the other night in Los Angeles. But, the Lakers take care of business. They do face the Nuggets in their next game, which will be very interesting as the Nuggets are off to a very hot start. A good defensive team. It will be another test early on for the Lakers as they head into the weekend worth of games. So as for Phoenix, we got to see DeAndre Ayton face off for the first time against the Lakers, for the first time against LeBron James. And the kid performed pretty well, 22 points in 31 minutes. He was 11 of 14 from the field, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. A solid game for Phoenix. Devin Booker, he had 23 points, 8 of 16 from the field. The takeaway here for him is that he left the game. Looks like a hamstring injury, it sounds like. So something to be concerned about early on in the season is Devin Booker and that hamstring. It sounds like it's just a strain, but, you want to be careful at the beginning of the season, of course. Phoenix, I don't know what their aspirations are as a team, but if they want to make some noise, if they want to see if they can take their game to the next level, I mean, maybe sniff around the playoffs for half a season or 2/3 of a season before they eventually fall off. But Devin Booker would have to be the guy, you would think, to lead them to a successful season, to build upon seasons past, with DeAndre Ayton. It's a nice little 1-2 combo. So an exciting young team in Phoenix when you take a look at them. You mix in with some vets like Ariza and Ryan Anderson. I mean, you can see them getting better as the year progresses. But nice to see DeAndre Ayton have a good game. But again, we will be having our eyes on Devin Booker. We'll have our eyes on his health and see what happens. But Luke Walton had come into this game a little bit upset about officiating, things like that, but not tonight, not this game. They take care of business, no problems there. So the Lakers are now 1-3 as they try and navigate back into one of the top teams in the Western Conference after a few years of being behind many of the good teams in the West. But it's a new era. It's a LeBron James era. And now with him, and now with these players, you see guys like Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. We'll see if they have a chance to progress forward, move on, and make some noise in the West. There have been a wide range of opinions about them. Some people say that they will struggle this year, maybe to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll be like a 7 or 8 seed. And there's people like myself who think, no, I mean, they might struggle at first, but it's a LeBron James team. There are talented players on this team. I see them as a top 5 team in the West. I had them slotted them at number 4 in my preseason predictions in the Western Conference. I think they'll, eventually get knocked out probably in the second round of the playoffs, but I'd fully expect them to make some noise. But as we move on across the landscape, I did want to mention the other night that Blake Griffin also had a 50-point game, the first of his career. So wanted to mention that, how impressive he was in that game. But moving on, we saw the 76ers play the Bucks last night, and for me, this was an interesting game. I know a lot of people aren't going to take too much about it, and I do want to say it was the second night of a back-to-back for Philadelphia, so I did expect them to have a tough time with Milwaukee, and they did. They lose 123-108, so the Bucks behind Giannis Antetokounmpo, he has a triple-double, and he leads the Bucks to a win. The Bucks are now 4-0, so 123-108, 32-18-10 for the Greek Freak. He's an incredible player. I think that he is still ascending, as crazy as that sounds. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, even after a night like 32-18-10. A phenomenal player. And for the Sixers, it's still early in the season. We're not going to write them off yet, but I am curious to see when they're going to have that that signature win. Like, when will they, because they've lost to Boston already, they've lost to Milwaukee. When will they beat Milwaukee, Toronto, or Boston? That will be the question that I have, because we know the 76ers are a talented team with all the young players like Embiid, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. When will they take that next step? Will it be this year? Were we premature to say that this will be the year that they take the step? Because people like myself, I had them slotted at number 2 in the East. I'm starting to think that maybe that was too high. I was banking on that young talent. Embiid last night played 36 minutes. He had 30 points, 19 boards, and 6 assists. A pretty good game for him. However, he wasn't helped by Markelle Fultz, who continues to have his struggles. Markelle Fultz played 27 minutes, 2 of 6 shooting, 5 points, no rebounds, 4 assists. It's just, you expect more from a guy who you took number 1 overall. I know he was injured last year, and he fought through some stuff, but I think this team needs him to take that next step, if the team will take the next step, because we know Embiid and Simmons were great last year. Of course, they had some struggles at times, but for the most part, they led that team. They need another guy to be that third guy. J.J. Redick is a good player off the bench as a shooter, but they need another two-way type of player, someone who can score, someone who can make some plays on his own, not just like a catch-and-shoot type of player like Redick, who doesn't provide much on the defensive end. So my interest lies with how Markelle Fultz turns out to be this season, and how he navigates his way into a successful NBA career. As of right now, you have to wonder if the Sixers were better off getting Jason Tatum, and how he would add to that team. It is an interesting idea. But over for Milwaukee, they improved to 4-0. Another good win for them. They're looking extremely impressive. Of course, we know about the Greek Freak, Antetokounmpo, how good he is, how much of an impact he has. 37 minutes again, and 32 points, 18 boards, 10 assists. But other guys stepped up too, and have been helping along. Middleton, 25 points on 18 shots, 4 and 4 for him. Brook Lopez, 21 points. Not a bad game for him, helping out in the scoring. Bledsoe, 18 points on 18 shots. So it's other guys too for Milwaukee. It's not just the Greek Freak, although he is undoubtedly the most talented player on that team. He is the player to watch. And I don't know, I think we might be seeing more out of him in the upcoming games, in the upcoming years. He's still an extremely young player. It just seems that he keeps getting a little bit better. I wonder if he can add to his shooting, because like last night, 0 for 3 from 3. If he ever develops a respectable 3-point shot, that he can just hit reliably when he's open, not creating his own three, but hitting a reliable 3-point shot from time to time. I think that his game could grow even bigger. As we see the NBA in today's game, it's really hard to be elite without a three-pointer, although I would say that Giannis is elite without that in his repertoire, but it is hard. So when you add something like that, we see guys like Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis isn't a three-point shooter per se, but he can shoot a three. He can absolutely shoot a three. I know the Pelicans have kind of walked him back a little bit, and he's more of an inside player. And, of course, you want guys like that with that size and that length to be under the hoop, be as close to the basket as possible because, of course, they're efficient. Those shots are much more efficient, but we might see Antetokounmpo continue to build off of this. I don't know if this year might be an MVP run for him, but you could certainly say in the next year or two, he might be a guy that's on the inside track for those MVP awards, on the inside track for NBA, first team and things like that. It will be interesting to see how he progresses. But the Bucks, again, a nice quality win. The Lakers get their first win. The Warriors, led by Steph Curry, again, just a great game for Steph Curry as he was the highlight of last night in the NBA for sure. With that 3-point shooting is just incredible. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the other games from last night. We had about 7 other matchups in the NBA that we'll discuss. We'll talk about some of the key players, take a look at how some of the rookies did. So I will talk about that when I return right after this.